Rain and Shadows, a 1-hour collection of true horror stories. Introduction. Hello and welcome. I'm glad you're here. Before we begin, I want you to do something for me. Find a comfortable place. Dim the lights or turn them off completely if you feel safe doing so. Let the sound of rain wash over you. Let it create a barrier between you and the world outside. What you're about to hear are 4 accounts. For experiences that happened to real people. I've changed names and some identifying details, but the core of each story remains exactly as it was shared with me. These aren't tales designed purely for entertainment. They are memories. Moments that changed how people see reality. Over the next hour we'll explore 4 different encounters with the unexplainable. Each one will take you somewhere different. Into different fears. Different questions about what's real and what isn't. The rain you hear isn't just atmosphere. It's a reminder. A constant. Something familiar and safe while we venture into spaces that are neither. Let it anchor you. Let it remind you that you're here. Safe. Listening. Not there. Not experiencing what these people experienced. But maybe part of you will be there. That's how these stories work. They pull you in. Make you wonder what you would have done. How you would have reacted. Whether you would have survived. The first story takes us to a small apartment in the Pacific Northwest. A place where one woman discovered that sometimes the most terrifying thing isn't what's outside your door. It's realizing you can no longer trust your own mind. So settle in. Let the rain continue. And let's begin. Story 1. The apartment on Ferry Street. How well do you really know your own home? My name is Claire and I'm 29 years old. This happened last year when I was living alone for the first time in my life. I'd just ended a long-term relationship. Needed space. Needed independence. Found a 1-bedroom apartment in a quiet neighborhood. Affordable. Clean. Nothing special, but it was mine. The apartment was on the 2nd floor of an older building. Early 1970s construction. The kind with thin walls and creaky floors but decent bones. My neighbors were quiet. An elderly couple below me. A single guy across the hall who worked nights. We'd nod in the hallway but never really talked. I moved in during September. The weather was turning. Rain becoming more frequent. That constant Pacific Northwest drizzle that never quite stops. I liked it. Found it soothing. I'd leave my windows cracked at night to hear it better. The first month was fine. I was adjusting. Learning the sounds of the building. The way the pipes groaned when someone showered. The way footsteps echoed in the stairwell. Normal apartment things. Nothing concerning. Then in October I started noticing small changes. I'd come home from work and things would be slightly different. A book I'd left on the coffee table would be on the kitchen counter. The bathroom door I always left open would be closed. The blinds I kept down would be pulled up. At first I thought I was misremembering. That I'd moved the book myself and forgotten. That I'd closed the door without thinking. Our brains do that. Fill in gaps. Create false memories. But the changes kept happening. And they were getting more noticeable. One evening I came home to find all my kitchen cabinets open. Every single one. Standing wide open like someone had been searching for something. I stood in the doorway staring. Trying to remember if I'd left them that way. I hadn't. I was certain. I checked the windows. Locked. The door showed no signs of forced entry. Nothing was missing. Nothing broken. Just the cabinets. Open. I closed them. Tried to convince myself I'd done it somehow. Maybe I'd been stressed. Distracted. Maybe I'd opened them all looking for something and forgot to close them. But I didn't believe that. Not really. I started paying closer attention. Taking mental photographs of how I left things. The exact position of my coffee mug. The angle of my laptop on the desk. The way I folded the throw blanket on the couch. And every day I'd come home to small changes. The mug moved 2 inches to the left. The laptop closed when I'd left it open. The blanket draped differently. Someone was coming into my apartment while I was gone. I called the landlord. Demanded to know who had keys. He said only him and the maintenance guy. Said neither of them had been in my unit. Offered to change the locks if it would make me feel better. I said yes. He changed them that week. Gave me the only 2 keys. The changes continued. I came home one evening to find my bedroom completely rearranged. The bed moved to a different wall. The dresser relocated. My clothes reorganized in the closet by color when I'd had them organized by type. That's when I started to panic. This wasn't small anymore. This was hours of work. Someone had spent significant time in my apartment. Moving furniture. Going through my things. I called the police. They came. Looked around. Asked if anything was missing. I said no. They asked if I had any enemies. Anyone who might want to harass me. I said no. They took a report, but I could tell they didn't take it seriously. Probably thought I was doing it myself for attention or having some kind of episode. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay in my rearranged bedroom staring at the ceiling. Listening to the rain. Wondering who was doing this and why. Around 3 in the morning I heard it. Footsteps. In my living room. Slow. Deliberate. Walking from the kitchen toward the bedroom. I sat up. Heart pounding. The footsteps stopped. I grabbed my phone. Turned on the flashlight. Got out of bed as quietly as I could. Opened the bedroom door. The apartment was empty. Dark. Silent except for the rain outside. I checked every room. Every closet. Under the bed. Behind the shower curtain. Nothing. No one. But I'd heard those footsteps. Clear as anything. In my home. In the middle of the night. I didn't sleep the rest of that night. Sat in my living room with all the lights on until sunrise. The next day I went to a hardware store. Bought security cameras. The kind you can monitor from your phone. I set up 3 of them. 1 in the living room. 1 in the bedroom. 1 in the kitchen. Now I'd have proof. Now I'd see who was coming in. I went to work. Checked the cameras obsessively on my phone. Nothing. Empty apartment. Everything still. I came home that evening. Reviewed the footage. 8 hours of recording. I watched it on fast forward. Looking for any movement. Any sign of entry. Nothing. The apartment remained empty the entire day. No one came in. No doors opened. No movement at all. But when I looked around my actual apartment, things had changed again. My couch cushions were flipped. My kitchen chairs rearranged. Books reshelved in a different order. The cameras showed none of it happening. According to the footage, my apartment had remained untouched. But the physical evidence said otherwise. I sat on my rearranged couch and tried to understand. Tried to make it make sense. The cameras showed nothing. But the changes were real. I could see them. Touch them. Unless I was doing it myself. And not remembering. The thought terrified me more than the idea of an intruder. What if I was changing things and my brain was blocking it out? What if I was having some kind of dissociative episodes? What if I was losing my mind? I made an appointment with a doctor. Described what was happening without mentioning the apartment. Just said I was concerned about memory loss. Blackouts. They ran tests. Brain scans. Blood work. Everything came back normal. But the changes in my apartment continued. And the cameras never showed anything. I started leaving notes for myself. Detailed descriptions of how I left things. Photographs time-stamped on my phone. Creating evidence that I wasn't imagining the changes. And every day I'd come home to differences. Small ones. Large ones. And every day the cameras showed nothing. One night I decided to stay home. Called in sick to work. Set up the cameras. Then I sat on my couch and watched my apartment. All day. Just sat there. Watching. Waiting. Hours passed. Nothing happened. The apartment remained still. I remained still. Just me and the rain and the waiting. Around 2 in the afternoon I felt tired. Strange because I'd slept well the night before. But suddenly I was exhausted. Could barely keep my eyes open. I tried to fight it, tried to stay alert, but the tiredness was overwhelming. I closed my eyes, just for a moment, just to rest them. When I opened them, it was dark outside. 7 hours had passed. I'd lost an entire afternoon. I stood up, looked around. Everything had been changed. The furniture rearranged. Objects moved. My laptop relocated to the kitchen table. Books scattered across the floor in patterns. And I'd been here the whole time. I checked the cameras. The footage showed me sitting on the couch. Then at one point around 2:15 I stood up, walked to the bedroom. The angle didn't show what I did in there. Then I emerged an hour later, moved the coffee table, rearranged the bookshelf, relocated my laptop, scattered the books, all with slow deliberate movements. Then I returned to the couch, sat down, and remained still until I woke up after dark. I watched myself do all of it, and I remembered none of it. Claire stopped here. When she told me this story, we were sitting in a coffee shop. Busy. Lots of people around. She'd chosen a public place deliberately. Said she felt safer with witnesses. I checked myself into a psychiatric facility that night, she continued. Voluntary admission. Told them everything. They kept me for 2 weeks. Ran more tests. Talked to me for hours every day. Tried different medications. The doctors said I was experiencing dissociative episodes triggered by stress. The breakup. Living alone for the first time. The isolation. It manifested as fugue states where I'd perform actions without conscious awareness. Then my brain would create a narrative to explain the changes. An intruder. Someone stalking me. They said it was rare but not unheard of. That with treatment I'd recover. Learn to recognize the triggers. Develop coping mechanisms. I wanted to believe them. Wanted an explanation that made sense. So I accepted the diagnosis. Took the medications. Did the therapy. They released me after 2 weeks. Said I was stable. Improving. I went back to my apartment. Back to my life. And for a month everything was fine. Normal. No changes. No missing time. No rearranged furniture. I thought they'd been right. That I was healing. Then last week I came home from work and found a note on my kitchen table. Handwritten. In my handwriting. It said, stop taking the medication. You need to remember. They're lying to you. I don't remember writing it. Don't remember leaving it. But it's definitely my handwriting. My pen. My notepad. I'm still taking the medication. Still seeing my therapist. Still trying to believe the doctors. But that note sits in my purse. I carry it with me. Read it sometimes when I'm alone. And I wonder, what am I supposed to remember? What are they lying about? Who is they? Or is the note just another symptom? Another manifestation of whatever is wrong with my brain? I don't know anymore. Don't know what's real. Don't know if I can trust my own mind. Don't know if the person writing notes and rearranging furniture is really me or something else using my body, my hands, my mind. All I know is I'm afraid to fall asleep. Afraid of what I might do. What I might discover I've done. Afraid that one day I'll wake up and not recognize my own life. My own home. Myself. This is the most frightening type of horror. Not ghosts or monsters or external threats, but the realization that you can't trust yourself, that your own mind might be your worst enemy, that the person you fear most might be looking back at you from the mirror. Claire still lives in that apartment, still takes her medication, still sees her therapist, but she's installed more cameras, keeps detailed journals, tries to maintain proof of who she is and what she does. And sometimes when I think about her story, I wonder how many of us are really in control. How much of what we do is conscious choice and how much is something else. Some other part of us. Operating in the darkness. Making decisions we'll never remember. How well do you know yourself? How certain are you that every action you take is yours? That every thought is your own? That you're really the one in control? Maybe you are. Maybe you're completely integrated, completely aware, completely present. Or maybe there's another you, waiting for you to close your eyes, waiting to take over, waiting to rearrange your life in ways you'll never understand. Sleep well tonight, and hope that when you wake up everything is exactly as you left it. Story 2, The Girl in the Water Tower. Have you ever seen something that looked almost human but you knew in your bones it wasn't? This story was told to me by a man named David. He's a water treatment specialist. Spends his days testing municipal water supplies, making sure they're safe, making sure nothing harmful gets into the system. It's technical work, scientific, based entirely on measurable facts. But what he saw couldn't be measured, couldn't be explained by any scientific principle he knew. We met at his request. He'd heard about my work collecting these stories, said he needed to tell someone, needed another person to know, in case something happened to him, in case he disappeared like the others. I work for a regional water authority, David began. We service about 15 small towns across northern Michigan. My job is to drive between treatment facilities, test the water, check the equipment, make sure everything meets EPA standards. It's boring work mostly, routine. I've been doing it for 12 years. Seen everything. Algae blooms, contamination events, equipment failures, all standard stuff. Nothing I can't handle. Last summer I was assigned to check a facility in a town called Edgewood. Population maybe 800. One of our smallest service areas. The facility is basically just a well and a water tower. Simple system. Low maintenance. I'd been there dozens of times over the years. Never had any issues. Nice quiet facility in a nice quiet town. I arrived on a Tuesday morning. July. Hot. The kind of heat that makes the air shimmer. I parked my truck and grabbed my testing kit. Walked to the tower access ladder. That's when I noticed something wrong. The access hatch at the top of the tower was open. That shouldn't happen. Those hatches are kept locked, secured. You need a key to open them. And there's no reason for anyone to go up there except maintenance, and maintenance wasn't scheduled. I called the local operator, asked if anyone had been working on the tower. He said no. Said the hatch should definitely be closed and locked. Told me to go up and secure it. Could be vandals, he said. Kids messing around. So I climbed the ladder. Maybe 80 feet up. The tower is one of those old-style elevated tanks. Spherical. Painted white. You can see it from miles away. It's the highest point in town. I reached the top. Stepped onto the maintenance platform. The hatch was wide open, propped against the railing. I looked inside. The water was about 15 feet below the opening. Dark. Still. I could see my reflection in it. The interior of the tank was dim, lit only by the light coming through the hatch. Concrete walls. Metal ladder leading down to the water. And floating in the center, a girl. Face down. Long dark hair spread around her head like a fan. Wearing a white dress. Not moving. My first thought was drowning. Someone had fallen in. Or jumped. I pulled out my phone to call 911. That's when the girl moved. Not the way a body moves in water. Not drifting or bobbing. She moved with purpose. She rolled over. Face up now. And she looked at me. I dropped my phone. It clattered on the metal platform. The girl in the water smiled. Her face was wrong. The proportions were off. Eyes too large. Too far apart. Mouth too wide. Like someone had drawn a human face from memory but gotten the details slightly wrong. She started swimming toward me. Not normal swimming. She moved through the water without breaking the surface. No splashing. No ripples. Just gliding. Silent. Fast. I backed away from the hatch. Slipped. Fell. My back hit the railing. The girl reached the ladder. Started climbing. Her movements were jerky. Unnatural. Like a puppet being pulled by strings. I scrambled to my feet. ran for the descent ladder, climbed down faster than I've ever moved, didn't look back, just focused on getting to the ground, getting to my truck, getting away. I reached the bottom, ran to my truck, got in, locked the doors, looked up at the tower. The hatch was closed now, sealed, like it had never been open. I sat there shaking, breathing hard, trying to process what I'd seen, trying to convince myself it hadn't been real. Heat exhaustion, dehydration, my mind playing tricks. But I'd seen her, seen that wrong face, those wrong proportions, the way she moved. I called my supervisor, told him I'd found the hatch open but secured it. Didn't mention the girl, didn't mention anything unusual. He thanked me and ended the call. I should have left, should have driven away and never come back. But I had a job to do. I needed to test the water, file my report. I forced myself to get out of the truck, forced myself to walk to the ground level access panel, forced myself to collect a water sample. The water looked normal, clear. I ran my standard tests, pH, chlorine, bacteria. Everything came back normal, safe to drink, safe for the town. I finished my report, got back in my truck, started to drive away. That's when I saw her, standing on the side of the road about a quarter mile from the tower. The girl, same white dress, same long dark hair, just standing there, watching me drive past. I kept driving, didn't stop, didn't slow down, watched her in my rearview mirror. She didn't move, just stood there until I turned a corner and lost sight of her. I didn't go back to Edgewood for 2 weeks. Told my supervisor I had too many other sites to cover. He assigned it to another technician, guy named Robert. He was older, close to retirement, good worker. Robert went to Edgewood on a Thursday. I got a call from my supervisor that evening. Robert hadn't returned from his route, wasn't answering his phone. They were organizing a search. They found his truck parked at the Edgewood water tower. His testing kit was on the ground. His phone was on the platform at the top of the tower. But Robert was gone. No sign of him. The police investigated, searched the area, dragged the water tower, found nothing. Robert had vanished. 3 days later they found him, walking on a highway 20 miles outside of town. Confused, disoriented, soaking wet. He was hospitalized, treated for exposure and dehydration. I visited him once he was stable enough for visitors. Asked him what happened. He looked at me with these empty eyes. These hollowed out eyes that had seen something they couldn't process. She was in the water, he whispered. The girl. I went up to check the hatch and she was there, in the tank. She pulled me in. I was underwater, couldn't breathe, couldn't see. Then I was on the highway. I don't remember anything in between. He retired 2 weeks later, moved out of state. I haven't spoken to him since. I took over the Edgewood route again. Had no choice. We were short-staffed. I go there once a month now. Always during the day. Always in full sun. I don't open that hatch anymore. Just test the water from the ground level access. File my reports. Leave as quickly as possible. But I see her sometimes. The girl. Standing near the tower. Or on the road. Or at the edge of the woods. Always in that white dress. Always watching. The water tests keep coming back normal. Whatever she is. Whatever lives in that tower. It's not affecting the water quality. Not in any way I can measure. But I know she's there. In the dark water. Waiting. And I know Robert went into that water. Spent time in there with her. With it. Whatever it is. And I know he came out changed. Emptied. Like something had been taken from him. Something essential. I've tried to research the tower. The town. Looking for explanations. Legends. Any history that might explain what I saw. I found very little. Edgewood is an old town. Established in the 1880s. The tower was built in 1953. Before that they used well water directly. But I did find one thing. One old newspaper article from 1954. About a girl who drowned in the lake they filled the tower from. She was 13. Went swimming alone. Never came back up. They never recovered her body. The article said the lake was very deep. Very cold. That sometimes bodies don't surface for weeks or months. Her name was Christine. The article included a photograph. A school picture. She had long dark hair. She was wearing a white dress. David stopped talking. Stared at his hands. They were shaking slightly. I don't know if that girl in the tower is Christine, he said. Don't know if it's her ghost or something else that took her shape. Don't know if she's trapped there or if she's chosen to stay. Don't know if she's dangerous or just lost. All I know is she's real. She's in that water. And sometimes she comes out. Walks around. Watches. Waits for someone to get too close. And I know that water tower serves 800 people. 800 people drinking water every day. Water that passes through whatever she is. Water that touches her. And I can't tell them. Can't warn them. Because what would I say? There's something in your water tower, but don't worry, the tests say it's safe? They'd think I was crazy. They'd fire me. And someone else would take over the route. Someone else would go up that tower. Someone else would see her. And maybe they wouldn't be as lucky as Robert. Maybe they wouldn't come back at all. So I keep testing. Keep reporting. Keep pretending everything is normal. And I avoid that hatch. Avoid looking into the water. Avoid eye contact when I see her standing outside. And I pray. Every time I visit. I pray she stays in the water. Stays contained. Stays whatever she is. And I pray I never have to go into that tower. Never have to climb down that ladder. Never have to touch that water. Because I've seen what happens to people who do. And I don't want to end up like Robert. Empty. Hollowed out. Missing something I can't name. I asked David why he continues. Why he doesn't quit. Find another job. Get away from Edgewood and that tower. He said someone has to watch. Someone has to monitor. Make sure she doesn't spread. Make sure she stays contained. And he's the only one who knows. The only one who understands what he's watching for. So he continues. Month after month. Testing water that looks normal. Filing reports that say everything is safe. Seeing a girl who shouldn't exist. Watching a town that drinks from a tower that contains something impossible. And he waits. For what he's not sure. For her to do something. For someone else to see her. For an explanation that will never come. Water towers dot the landscape across America. Thousands of them. Most are monitored regularly. Tested. Maintained. Kept secure. But what if Edgewood isn't unique? What if other towers contain things they shouldn't? Things that can't be measured. Can't be filtered out. Can't be explained. What if right now you're drinking water that passed through something impossible? Something that was once human or never was. Something that lives in the dark and the cold and the wet. Something that watches through the surface. Waiting for someone to look down. To climb that ladder. To enter its domain. The tests will say it's safe. The reports will show normal. But tests only measure what we know to look for. Reports only document what we can quantify. Some contamination can't be detected. Some dangers can't be measured. Some things live in our water supply and leave no trace except the empty eyes of those who've seen them. Drink carefully. And if your water ever tastes different, feels different, makes you think of deep cold darkness, maybe don't finish that glass. Maybe call someone. Maybe ask questions. Or maybe just accept it. Accept that we share our world with things we can't explain. Things that live in the spaces we've built. The systems we've created. The infrastructure we trust. And hope that whatever lives in the water stays there. Contained. Patient. Waiting. Story 3. The signal from Tower 7. What if the most disturbing message you ever received came from a place that doesn't exist? This account comes from a woman named Patricia. She worked as a radio technician for the Federal Communications Commission. Her job involved monitoring broadcasts, making sure stations stayed within their licensed parameters, investigating interference and unauthorized transmissions. It's technical work, regulated, everything documented and tracked. But sometimes she told me you encounter transmissions that don't fit any category, signals that shouldn't exist. And when that happens, you have a choice. Report it and deal with the bureaucracy, or log it as unknown and move on. Usually she moved on, but one transmission wouldn't let her. I was working the night shift Patricia began. This was about 3 years ago. I was at the monitoring station in Colorado. We cover a huge area, multiple states, hundreds of licensed broadcasts. My job was to scan frequencies, check for violations, log any anomalies. It was around 2 in the morning. Quiet shift. Most stations sign off overnight. Just some automated programming and emergency services. I was doing routine scans when I picked up something unusual. A signal on a frequency that should have been empty. No station licensed for that frequency in our region. I checked my database. Nothing. Empty spectrum. But the signal was strong. Clear. Like it was coming from nearby. I started recording. Standard protocol. Any unauthorized transmission gets recorded and investigated. At first it was just static. White noise. Then it resolved into a tone. Single sustained note. About 400 Hz. Just holding steady. I waited. Sometimes these are tests. Someone with equipment they shouldn't have. Usually shuts down after a few minutes. But this didn't shut down. The tone continued. Constant. Unwavering. I let it run. Started doing a direction finding scan. Trying to locate the source. The scan came back with coordinates. I pulled them up. Middle of nowhere. High desert. About 60 miles north. No towns. No structures listed. Just empty land. The tone changed. Started pulsing. Regular intervals. Like Morse code but not Morse code. The pattern was too complex. Too fast. I adjusted my recording settings. Captured it at higher fidelity. Then a voice came through. Female. Young. Speaking English but with strange cadence. Like she was reading phonetically. Like English wasn't her native language but she'd memorized the sounds. This is Tower 7, the voice said. Broadcasting emergency message. Repeat. Tower 7 emergency message. I grabbed my logbook. Started writing. Tower 7 wasn't a designation I recognized. No facility in my database with that name. I keyed my radio to respond. Standard protocol. Identify yourself and establish contact. Tower 7, this is FCC Monitoring Station 629. Please identify your location and license number. Static. The pulsing tone resumed. Then the voice came back. Tower 7 cannot comply. Tower 7 is not licensed. Tower 7 is not on your maps. Tower 7 is not in your time. I stopped writing. Read back what I just recorded. Not in your time. What did that mean? Tower 7, please clarify. What is your emergency? The tone stopped completely. Just silence. Then the voice returned. Different now. Urgent. Afraid. They're inside the building. They've breached containment. We need evacuation. We need support. But nobody answers. Nobody hears us. We've been calling for 6 days. Why doesn't anyone answer? I checked my equipment. Everything functioning normally. Strong, clear signal. But the content made no sense. Tower 7, I can hear you. What is your location? Who is breaching containment? You can hear me. The voice changed again. Surprised. Hopeful. Yes, I can hear you clearly. Tell me where you are. I can send help. We're at Tower 7. Research station. Coordinates are. She read off a string of numbers. I wrote them down, started to input them into my system, but the format was wrong. Too many digits. Not standard latitude, longitude. Not any coordinate system I recognized. Those coordinates don't match any system I know. Can you give me a landmark? A nearby town? There are no towns. Tower 7 is remote. Intentionally isolated. The work we do, we need isolation. But now we need help. They are in the ventilation system. We can hear them moving. Please send evacuation. Who is in the ventilation system? Static. Long pause. When the voice returned, it was quieter. Resigned. We don't know. They came from below. From the excavation. We went too deep. Found something. Woke something. Now they are here. Now they are spreading. I should have ended the transmission then. Logged it as a prank or equipment malfunction. But something in that voice. The fear was real. Whatever she believed was happening. She believed it completely. How many people are with you? 17. We started with 23. We've lost 6. They take us down. Below. We hear them screaming, but we can't reach them. The lower levels are sealed. We sealed them ourselves. Trapped them with those things. But it didn't stop them. They're coming up. Finding new ways. We're running out of time. I made a decision. Contacted my supervisor. Woke him up. Explained the situation. He told me to triangulate the source. Get an exact location. If there were really people in distress we needed to help. I ran a full direction finding sweep. Multiple receivers. Precise triangulation. The results came back. The signal was originating from exactly where she said. Those impossible coordinates. When I converted them to standard format, they placed the source underground. About 2 miles underground. In an area where nothing existed on any map. My supervisor contacted local authorities. Sheriff's Department. Search and rescue. Gave them the converted coordinates. They sent units to investigate. Found nothing. Empty desert. No structures. No roads. No sign anyone had ever been there. But the transmission continued. For 6 more hours that woman broadcasted, describing what was happening. The things coming up through the ventilation. The way they moved. The sounds they made. The way her colleagues disappeared one by one. By dawn she was alone. Last survivor. Broadcasting to anyone who could hear. Begging for help that wasn't coming. Her final message came at 7:32 a.m. They're at the door now. I can hear them. Smell them. Like rust and earth and something rotten. The door won't hold. I'm sorry I couldn't. I tried to. Please, if anyone hears this, tell them we went too deep. Tell them some things should stay buried. The transmission ended. I waited. Kept the frequency open. Nothing. Just empty spectrum. I filed a full report. Included all recordings. All data. My supervisor forwarded it up the chain. FCC investigated. Found no licensed transmitter. No equipment. No explanation for the signal. They classified it as atmospheric interference. A freak propagation event that somehow created voices from random noise. But I listened to those recordings. Over and over. That wasn't random noise. That was a woman. A terrified woman calling for help from a place that didn't exist. Or shouldn't exist. Or existed somewhere outside normal space. Patricia pulled out a folder. Inside were printouts. Waveform analyses. Spectrograms. Pages of technical data. I've been researching since then, she said. Trying to understand. I found references to Tower 7. Not in official records. In forums. Old bulletin boards. Stories from other technicians who'd picked up similar transmissions. Always the same. A research station. Underground. Something breaching containment. Always ending the same way. The voice going silent. But the dates are wrong. Some reports are from the 80s. Some from the 90s. some from last year, all describing the same event, the same voice, the same message, like it's repeating, or like time doesn't work the same there. Wherever there is, I've tried to pick up the signal again, monitored that frequency every night for months. Nothing, just silence, like it was never there, like I imagined the whole thing. But I have the recordings, 6 hours of audio, of a woman dying in a place that doesn't exist, calling for help that could never arrive. And I wonder, is she still there? Still broadcasting? Still hoping someone will hear? Still waiting in that underground facility with things that came from below? Or did it end that morning? Did those things take her? Is she gone? Or is she somewhere else? Someone else? Trapped in a loop? Broadcasting the same message over and over across time? I don't know. Can't know. But I think about her. Think about Tower 7. Think about what they were researching, what they found, what they woke. And I think about all the empty frequencies, all the unused spectrum, all the signals that might be broadcasting from places we can't reach, times we can't access, realities adjacent to our own. What if the static we hear, the interference, the noise, what if some of it isn't noise at all? What if it's voices, messages, warnings from places that exist in the spaces between? From research stations that went too deep? From facilities that should have stayed sealed? We trust our technology, trust our maps, trust our measurements. But what if reality is more complicated? What if there are places that exist outside our coordinate systems? Stations broadcasting from times that don't align with ours? People trapped in spaces we can't locate? Patricia still works for the FCC, still monitors frequencies, still searches for that signal, for any trace of Tower 7, for any indication that what she heard was real. And sometimes late at night when the spectrum is quiet, when most transmitters are silent, she hears whispers, fragments, pieces of voices calling from nowhere, from places that might be everywhere and nowhere, from times that might be now and then and never. She doesn't report them anymore, just records them, catalogs them, adds them to her collection of impossible transmissions, because somewhere out there, Tower 7 might still be broadcasting, still calling, still hoping someone will triangulate that signal, will find those coordinates, will send the help that never came. But we can't reach them, can't help them, can't even prove they existed. All we can do is listen, record, bear witness to their final messages from the spaces between. Sleep carefully tonight, and if you hear strange sounds on your radio, voices that shouldn't be there, transmissions from nowhere, maybe listen, maybe record, maybe you'll hear Tower 7, maybe you'll hear that woman, still calling, still afraid, still trapped, and maybe, just maybe, if enough people hear, if enough people listen, if enough people believe, maybe we can find a way to answer, a way to reach through whatever barrier separates us, a way to finally send help. Or maybe it's too late. Maybe it was always too late. Maybe Tower 7 is just an echo, a recording, a message in a bottle thrown across dimensions, meant not as a call for help, but as a warning. They went too deep, found something, woke something, and now they're broadcasting across time and space, not asking to be saved, but warning us not to dig, not to excavate, not to explore too far into the places that should remain sealed. Some doors should stay closed, some depths should remain unexplored, some signals should go unanswered. Tower 7 learned that lesson, and now they're trying to teach it to us. One transmission at a time, one listener at a time, one warning echoing through the empty frequencies. Forever. Story 4, The Toll Collector. Do you believe some debts can never be paid and some roads exact prices beyond money? This final story comes from multiple sources. I've heard versions of it from different people, in different states, The details change. The names change. But the core remains the same. A road. A toll booth. And a collector who accepts payment in ways you can't imagine. The most detailed account came from a man I'll call Michael. He was a long-haul trucker. Spent 30 years on the road. Drove every highway in America. Saw every kind of weird thing you can see at 3 in the morning on empty interstates. But one road. One toll booth. That's what finally made him quit. Made him park his truck and never drive long distance again. I was hauling freight from Pennsylvania to Illinois. Michael began. Standard route. I'd driven it hundreds of times. But this time I was behind schedule. Weather delays. Traffic. Equipment issues. I needed to make up time. Around midnight I was crossing through Ohio. Rural area. Not much out there. I was looking for a shortcut. Something to save 30 minutes. My GPS showed a state route that cut through. Shorter distance. No traffic. I took it. The road was old. 2 lanes. Poorly maintained. No lights. No other traffic. Just me and the darkness and my headlights cutting through. I drove for maybe 20 minutes. Trees pressing in on both sides. No houses. No signs. Just road. Then I saw it ahead. A toll booth. Single lane. Wooden structure. Old style. The kind they don't use anymore. Everything is automated now. Electronic passes. But this was old. Manual. A person sitting in a little booth. I slowed down. Confused. I hadn't seen any signs warning about a toll. Hadn't seen any indication this was a toll road. But there it was. Barrier across the lane. Booth lit from inside. Figure sitting at the window. I stopped. Rolled down my window. The night air was cold. Smelled like rain and something else. Something organic. Something wrong. The toll collector leaned forward. I couldn't see the face. Just a shape. A silhouette against the light inside the booth. Toller voice said. Neutral. Neither male nor female. Just a voice. How much, I asked. Depends. Depends on what? On what you're carrying. On what you owe. On what you can pay. I pulled out my wallet. Started to take out cash. The toll collector made a sound. Not quite a laugh. Not quite anything. Not money, the voice said. You don't owe money. Then what? The toll collector was silent. Waiting. I felt uncomfortable. Wrong. Every instinct telling me to reverse. Turn around. Find another route. But the road behind me. When I checked my mirror, it was gone. Not dark. Not empty. Gone. Like it had never existed. Just black void where the pavement should have been. I can't go back, I said. Voice shaking. No. The road only goes forward. But forward requires payment. I don't understand. What do you want? Tell me about your regret. What? Your deepest regret. The thing you wish you could undo. The moment that haunts you. Tell me. That's the toll. I sat there. Engine idling. Hands gripping the wheel. Every part of me screaming this was wrong. This wasn't real. This was impossible. But the booth was real. The barrier was real. The void behind me was real. And somewhere in my chest I knew this was happening. Knew I had to pay. So I told them about my daughter. About the argument we'd had. About the things I'd said. Cruel things. Angry things. About how she'd left. About the accident 2 days later. About how I never got to apologize. Never got to take it back. About the last words between us being hatred instead of love. I told them everything. And as I spoke I felt something. Like a weight lifting. Like a wound opening. Like something being extracted from deep inside me. When I finished, the toll collector was silent. Then, paid. The barrier lifted. I drove forward. Through the booth. Back onto the road. I checked my mirror. The booth was gone. Just empty road behind me. Dark but normal. Real. I drove the rest of the night in silence. Reached my destination at dawn. Unloaded. Drove home. Tried to process what had happened. Tried to convince myself it had been exhaustion, hallucination, stress. But something was different. The grief I'd carried for 12 years. The weight of that regret. It was lighter. Not gone. But changed. Like I'd shared it. Like someone else was carrying part of it now. And I knew. Knew I'd paid a toll. Knew I'd driven a road that shouldn't exist. Knew I'd encountered something. Someone. A collector. Not of money. Of stories. Of pain. Of regret. Michael quit trucking after that. Sold his rig. Took a local job. Warehouse work. Anything that kept him off long-haul routes. Off empty highways. Off roads that might lead to toll booths that shouldn't exist. But he told me he's heard from other drivers. Others who've taken shortcuts. Others who've encountered toll booths in places where no toll booths should be. Others who've paid with stories. With confessions. With secrets they'd never told anyone. And he's heard what happens to those who refuse to pay. Those who try to run the booth. Try to break through the barrier. They're found later. Miles down the road. Vehicles crashed. Drivers dead or missing. And sometimes there are marks on them. On their vehicles. Like something reached through. Pulled something out. Took what it was owed by force. The toll must be paid. One way or another. In words or in blood. In confession or in consequence. There are roads throughout America. Shortcuts. Backroads. Routes that don't appear on maps. Roads that exist in the spaces between. Roads that only appear to certain drivers. At certain times. When they're running late. When they're desperate. When they're carrying something the road wants. And on those roads there are toll booths. Collectors. Guardians. Things that maintain the boundaries. That extract payment for passage. That listen to confessions and carry burdens. That keep the books balanced in ways we don't understand. If you drive long enough, far enough, late enough, you might encounter one. Might see that wooden booth appear where it shouldn't be. Might see that barrier drop across your path. Might hear that neutral voice ask for payment. And when it does, when you're asked what you owe, don't lie, don't refuse. Tell them your story, your regret, your secret, your pain. Give them what they ask for. Because the alternative, the price of refusal, that's something you don't want to pay. Michael ended with a warning. One he'd heard from other drivers. From the community of people who'd paid the toll and lived. The collectors are fair, he said. They take only what's owed. They ask only what you can give. They don't cheat. Don't steal. Don't take more than the price of passage. But they always collect. Always. The road only goes forward. And forward requires payment. Always has. Always will. So if you're ever on a back road, late at night, running behind schedule, and you see a toll booth ahead, a booth that shouldn't be there, don't panic. Don't run. Just stop. Roll down your window. And prepare to pay. Think about what you're carrying. What you regret. What you've never told anyone. Because that's what they want. That's the toll. Your truth. Your pain. Your humanity. And maybe once you've paid. Once you've confessed. Once you've shared what you've been carrying alone. Maybe you'll feel lighter. Maybe you'll drive away changed. Maybe the weight you've been carrying will be shared with something else. Something that collects these stories. These burdens. These tolls. Maybe that's what the collectors are. Not monsters. Not demons. Just listeners. Record keepers. Beings that maintain balance. That ensure everyone who uses the hidden roads pays their fair share. Or maybe there's something else entirely. Something we can't understand. Something that operates by rules beyond our comprehension. Either way, the toll must be paid. The story must be told. The secret must be shared. That's the price of passage. That's the cost of shortcuts. That's the toll for traveling roads that exist between. Drive safely. Pay your debts. And if you ever see that wooden booth appear where it shouldn't be, remember, they're fair, they're patient, they're waiting, but they always collect. Always. Conclusion. And there we are. 4 stories. 4 encounters. For moments when ordinary people found themselves on the edges of reality. In apartments that changed themselves. At water towers that contained impossible things. On radio frequencies that broadcast from nowhere. On roads that demanded payment beyond money. Thank you for spending this hour with me. For listening to these accounts. For opening yourself to the possibility that the world contains more than we usually allow ourselves to see. The rain continues outside. Constant. Reliable. Familiar. Let it remind you that you're here. Safe. That what you've heard are stories. Experiences that happened to other people. In other places. At other times. But maybe not so far away. Maybe not so long ago. Maybe closer than you think. Maybe these things are happening right now. Somewhere. To someone. Pay attention to your surroundings. Notice when things change. When sounds don't match. When signals come from nowhere. When roads appear that shouldn't exist. Those moments. Those cracks in normal reality. They're opportunities. To see. To understand. To encounter what lives alongside us. Not all encounters are dangerous. Not all mysteries are threatening. Sometimes the unexplainable is simply that. Unexplained. Neutral. Just part of the vast complex reality we inhabit. But sometimes these encounters change us. Take something from us. Or give us something we didn't ask for. Sometimes the price of seeing is higher than we expect. If you've experienced something like what you've heard tonight, something you can't explain, can't share, can't forget, know that you're not alone. Know that others have been there. Others have seen. Others carry similar stories. And maybe that's enough. Maybe knowing we're not alone in these experiences is what matters. Maybe the sharing, the witnessing, the acknowledgement. Maybe that's how we process the impossible, how we integrate it, how we continue. The night is ending. Dawn will come. Light will return. And in that light these stories might seem distant, unreal, easy to dismiss. But tonight, right now, in the darkness with the rain, they feel true, don't they? They feel possible. They feel like windows into something larger, something stranger, something that's always been there, waiting for us to notice. Sleep well if you can, and if you can't, if something keeps you awake, if you hear changes in your home, if you see faces in water, if you pick up strange signals, if you encounter roads that demand payment, remember you're not the first, won't be the last. Others have walked these paths. Others have paid these tolls. Others have survived their encounters with the edges of reality. And maybe that's all we can do. Survive. Witness. Share. Keep moving forward on whatever roads we find ourselves traveling. Thank you for listening. Thank you for believing. And thank you for spending this rainy night exploring the shadows with me. Until next time, stay curious, stay careful, and remember, the world is vast. Reality is stranger than we admit. And sometimes the most ordinary moments contain the most extraordinary mysteries. The rain continues. Let it carry you into sleep, into dreams, into whatever comes next. And remember, you're safe. You're here. The stories are over.